who is superior in many regards, gets a little bit higher percentage of traffic violation tickets than most folks, I think. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But at one time, about 2 years ago, she had, I don't know, 4 tickets in whatever a certain period was, and she had to do the traffic court bit. And they said you can do it, and they gave her 4 locations, choose your own location.
Yeah.
You have to go to class for, 3 nights or something. And somebody told her, some nice, helpful woman said, now, if you go to the Van Nuys branch, they have comedians there conducting the class.
Traffic school?
Traffic school,
yeah. The school. Yeah, they have comedians now, yeah.
But this is pretty wild. Have you guys heard about this in the East?
No.
They actually have stand-up comics conducting the traffic school classes.
And it says in the ad, laugh school.
Yeah.
Have fun while learning.
Only in a free California.
Yeah.
But to go in, there's a 2-ticket minimum?
I don't know what you have to do to get there, but that's strange.
You just book it. You call and you make a reservation. It's $20 or $25.
Yeah.
And I go to one where the cop is funny too now. I just went to court where the marshal was hilarious. He said, "Mr. Carter, you want to sit through my routine again?" I said, "You're ready for the improv. You're hilarious."
Well, we're out of time.
Small world, isn't it? Jack, thank you so much for joining us. It's been
Wait a minute. Let me be indicted at least. Let me get out. Let me get a court. Let me get a nice judge listening in.
Well, we'll come back in just a moment. We'll say goodbye officially in just a moment.
Is there anyone I haven't offended?
On the Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
You're listening to the Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
Well, that's it. We're all out of time.
Indeed we are. And Jack Carter, one of TV's comedy pioneers and still one of the funniest men around, is our guest for the last hour. Jack, as I was saying, thank you so much.
I certainly love to have a pie in my ear.
And we'll see you again soon, we hope.
Thank
you, Herb. Thank you, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to Pro Piano for providing Steve Allen's piano, and thanks to our producers Dick Brennan and Debbie Farr. And thanks to all of you for listening to the Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network. Live from Hollywood and from New York, it's the Steve Allen Show. Coming up this hour, First Impressions, the other news, Herb Sargent. This is Mark Simone. And now, here's Steve Allen.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hiya, folks. Mark,
Yes?
Did you ever play in your childhood, or for that matter last evening, a game called Kick the Can?
I think we played a game called Kick the Teacher. In the can.
All right. Well, if you ever did, then we may play it again today. At least we can talk about old street games that kids used to play. Different games in different parts of the country, it turns out.
You explained this the other week with Bob Einstein, that there were 2 different versions of Kick the Can. There was
that was, I think that was Buck, how many fingers up?
But the game was played differently in 2 parts of the country.
True.
Well, we'll get to that and more in just a second on the Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
Hello, this is Steve Allen. Glad you joined us to laugh it up. Hope you stay tuned to the Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Steve Allen.
Thank you, America. Hello from Hollywood. Yes, the glamour capital of the world. This is Steve Glamour, making capital of your predicament. Take that silly music out of it.
That's catchy music.
It is. It's adorable. That always makes me talk like a nut. That's why.
Well, later on this hour, speaking of talking like a nut, we'll get to first impressions. So if you got one great impression, save it for later on this hour.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be anybody famous. Perhaps you could do an impression of your Aunt Helen.
And that's the idea. If you can think of somebody who's never been imitated on this show, there have been a million Dr. Ruths and Jimmy Cagnes, but if you can think of a new impression, you'll have a chance later this hour.
And in the meantime, we can return to the subject of the games we all played in the streets when we were children. I hope that America's children are still playing those games, but what with all the gang fights and the drug selling these days, they may not have room on the streets for such innocent pursuits. There are some games that I only heard about, and to this day I have no idea what some of them are. In Chicago, where I spent most of my early years, Mark, we never heard of a game called Ring-a-Levio. So I have the impression that's a New York area game. Did you ever hear of it or play it?
I've heard the name, but I don't really know what the game is.
All right, that makes two of us, but we must have hundreds of thousands of listeners right now in different parts of the country who know perfectly well how to play Ring-a-Levio, so perhaps later one of them will enlighten us. I think I must have been about 50 before I discovered what was meant by the name of the game used in the East, that being Potsy, P-O-T-S-Y. I first noticed the word in an old movie, I think an old Warner Brothers film, probably starring Humphrey Bogart. He was saying something to the effect that, you think I'm just some dumb kid playing games on the sidewalk? No, I mean business. And the line went something like, you think I'm just some dumb kid playing Potsy on the streets? Well, let me tell you something. And I remember thinking, what's Potsy? And anyway, some years back I found out it's just the New York street name, or was at that time, for hopscotch.
Well, we interrupt this for just a second because we have a Dr. Ruth call.
Oh, really?
We switch now, ladies and gentlemen, to our Dr. Ruth line. Hello, you're on the air with Dr. Ruth. Are you there?
Hello?
No, they hung up.
We should explain that Dr. Ruth uses our same New York studio for her program, her radio program, and sometimes the calls for her come in because they give that number when she's on, and they come through our switchboard.
Well, what happens is some stations run Dr. Ruth on tape at this time.
Oh, I see.
So that's why, and they hear the number and they call now.
Mm-hmm.
I wish she'd clean up the studio when she leaves it, though. You've got to put these mattresses back in the closet.
No, come on. That's a vile canard, and so is Daffy Duck. Anyway,
you were saying about hopscotch.
Yes, Potsy was the name for hopscotch. Now, there may be some out there who don't know what hopscotch is, but I doubt that. That seems to be one of those games that everybody knows about.
You know what we ought to do is get, maybe there's a child listening to us right now. We ought to ask them what the games are they play nowadays.
Yes, there are children who not only listen to us, but phone us. That's one of the many reasons we try to keep this the level of our discussion on as high a plane as is reasonable to expect in these troubled times. There was another game we used to play in the Midwest in the 30s, and before that, of course. I always thought it was kind of dumb, although I loved to play it when I did. It was called Statues. Does that name do anything to you, Herb?
Yes.
How did you play Statues in your neighborhood?
Well, you get a bunch of pigeons. And
No, come on. No, just a moment. Whoops, the bell's broken. Isn't that terrible? Wait,
maybe I'm confusing it with something where somebody yelled freeze.
Yes, that was it. You have.
You had to freeze in whatever position you were in.
Yeah, that's a game you play after you rob a liquor store.
The way we played it in our neighborhood, whoever was the leader would grab you by the hand and the wrist and fling you around a couple of times to build up a little momentum, and then fling you off into space, and then at a certain point yell either freeze or
you're
red
a
light.
statue. Red light was... Oh, go on.
Red light maybe was the same game or a part of it or another game. Anyway, at a certain cue, you had to freeze into a position, and then he would do this with all 5 or 6 players, and then be the judge as to which of the 5 or 6 had ended up in the most outrageous or amusing or crazy pose.
Can you imagine if Dr. Ruth did that with her audience?
I always thought, though, that it was a dumb game because you could really get into any pose you wanted. It wasn't that you were in the helpless grip of inexorable physical forces.
There was King of the Hill, King of the Mountain.
King of the Hill was tough. Very few girls ever played King of the Hill, although it might have been more laughs if they did. Generally, the bullies and the older kids rule that roost. You got up on some little hill, a garbage pile or somebody's wagon or whatever it was, and then you said, I'm King of the Hill. And other people, if they questioned that, would try to assume your position. Great deal of shoving and pushing and ouching and screaming and going home with a bloody nose.
But we used to, we had a brutal finish to it. We used to bury the loser in the yard.
Well, let's take, if you're under the age of, let's say 12, give us a call right now. We'll find out what kids play today.
All right.
If you're a young child under the age of 12, call us at 1-800-635-LIVE. 1-800-635-LIVE.
We used to play, as I said a few minutes ago, kick the can. Somebody would have to hide his face up against a wall or a telephone pole, and there was a tin can on the ground. What the heck did that have to do with it? And it was a little like a version of hide and seek.
You mean you'd kick the can?
Kick the can.
Yeah, but I can't recall why.
Well, yours was not the reason why.
Out your way, it's kick the Mercedes. Beverly Hills, I think it's.
Yeah, New York, it's kick the hubcap.
I see. Well, anyway, maybe I'm mixing up two games. One of them was, as they say, a switch and hide and go seek. But it had something to do with kicking a can. I can't remember why we kicked that can.
Well, let's get an actual kid on the phone.
All right. Some well-informed punk.
You're on the Steve Allen Show. Hello?
Yes.
What's your name?
Brian.
How old are you, Brian?
8.
What city are you calling from, Brian?
New Jersey.
Where?
New Jersey.
Close to New Jersey.
Close to New Jersey.
Close to New Jersey.
Now, Brian, explain to Steve Allen how to kick the can.
Do you ever play the game called Kick the Can, Brian?
All right. The one person is it, and all the other
is your radio
people
turned
go
off?
And hide, and then the rest of the people. One person is it, and
So simple, even an 8-year-old can explain it.
Is your radio off, Brian? Because if it isn't, it'll hang you up when you're trying to talk. Ask your agent to turn the radio
one
off.
person will be it, and
Gotta be it, yes.
all the rest of the people will go and hide, and
True.
and all the rest of the people will go and hide who are playing. And let's say I'm it, and
Yes.
I see you. I'll run over to the can and
Kick the can before.
and no, I put my foot on it and I.
You sound like Jimmy the Greek trying to explain himself afterwards.
So you put your foot on the can to prevent someone else kicking it?
No, you put your foot on it and then you call out that person's name and then
Hello?
they have to go and.
I think Brian just electrocuted himself, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you there,
Maybe
Brian?
The entire network did. Debbie, do you have any information as to why I now hear nobody, whatever?
Can you hear us now?
The standard question, of course, is the first and the immediate question is, no, not whatever.
I think you
do,
unplugged your
If
headphones.
they can be heard by America, that's a big plus.
Well, actually, we'll take a break and get all of this straightened out. Brian, are you there?
Yes.
All right, well, hang on a second.
Hide for a minute, Brian.
Because,
What's another person is?
No, hang on a second, Brian.
And
Sounds like Gary Hart trying to explain his new ideas.
now,
We'll be back in just a moment with more of The Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
you're listening to The Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network. We hope you'll join us every day at this time.
Welcome back to The Steve Allen Show. This is Mark Simone. Herb Sargent is here. And once again, here's Steve Allen.
Thank you, Mark. Whatever went wrong seems to have been repaired, so we'll pick up where. What had we last heard from young Brian?
Well, Brian has left us, and we've found 2 new children
All right.
who are both on the line together. Are you both there? Hello?
well,
Yeah, what's your name?
Jesse.
Jesse and Sonia.
Nice to have you folks with us. What games do you like to play on the street?
I like to play tennis, jump rope, baseball, basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Ah, well, those are, of course, the famous games, basketball, football, tennis, that sort of thing. But are there any little street games that you play, without athletic equipment? Perhaps not in your neighborhood. It's not an obligation.
Have you ever played Kick the Can?
I've played Kick the Can.
How do you play that?
Well, you select someone to close their eyes and count to a certain number. And during that time, all the other players hide.
Yes.
And then the person who is counting tries to find the hidden players, and tag them or touch them. And they try
Yes.
to get away from the person who's finding them and kick the can before
I see.
the other person can touch them.
I see. All right. Well, thank you for that description. That does seem to reflect what we used to do in our neighborhood. Did you ever play statues?
I played that.
How do you play that?
Where you have you just.
I think this kid's just making up answers for us now.
Sonia, do you play statues?
No.
You don't. Did you ever play King of the Hill?
No.
Did you ever play King of the Road by Roger Miller?
No.
Did you ever play Ring-a-Levio?
No.
That's the mystery game of the day, but there must be many who will call and tell us what it is.
So Jesse,
did you ever play Potsy on the sidewalk?
No.
Jesse, are you there?
Yeah.
Do you like girls?
What?
Do you like girls yet?
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Do you go out with any?
Uh-huh.
What's that got to do with games, unless you're talking about games such as Spin the Bottle?
Well, that's what I was getting at. Are there any games you play with girls yet?
The two...
Post office.
Game?
Post office and Spin the Bottle were very big when I was about 12 years old.
You
You
play
still
that?
have Spin the Bottle.
You do play Spin the Bottle.
Wonder if there are any children now who don't know what Spin the Bottle is. Would you explain, therefore, Jesse?
I don't know. This got him to clam up pretty fast.
Hey,
How do you play Spin the Bottle?
would you have other people sit in a circle
Mm-hmm.
and you spin a glass bottle or something,
Right.
and then
It points
it's
to somebody.
like the opening will point to someone,
Mm-hmm.
and you have it point to two members of the opposite sex,
Yeah.
and then whoever it points to, then they kiss.
Then they kiss.
I see. Well, that's sweet. Very nice, innocent fun. All right, thank you, Jesse, for telling us that. It's nice to know that there are some customs which persist in these difficult times.
And so,
If anyone out there knows how to play Ring-a-Levio, or indeed even what Ring-a-Levio is. Another title has just come to my mind. Herb, did you ever play Tap the Icebox?
Never.
tap the icebox?
Oh,
Yes.
We play Spin the Icebox.
Steal the icebox. No, in Tap the Icebox, somebody would be it, as we say, and would have to hide his face against a wall, cover his eyes. And then the other 5 or 6 or 7 players would gather round him, and one of them would tap him on the back, just a little, a couple of quick taps, and he had to guess who it was. Statistically, he was unlikely to guess. If he did, then that person had to take over his job. And if he didn't, I forget what happened.
That's called Guess Who.
Oh, really?
Probably. I think it sounds familiar, but I never heard of the. What's an icebox, by the way?
That's fun. To this day, people of my generation, I'm in my 60s, tend to use the word icebox, the term icebox, when they mean refrigerator.
What about horseless carriage? Do you still use that?
Unless there's a change in the weather.
And flying machine. I took a trip to California in a flying machine last month.
But if you give him a fancy limousine, to him it's a horseless carriage with an icebox in it.
Well, I had to change the water in the pan under many an icebox when I was a boy. And it accounts for my character today as a drip.
Well, we have to stop for just a moment. Coming up in just a little while, we'll get to first impressions. If you've got a great impersonation, the number is 1-800-635-LIVE. You'll have your chance in a few minutes. 1-800-635-LIVE. And today, we want you to try and be different. We've had enough of Dr. Ruths and Mae Wests and Jimmy Cagney. Some original impressions. That and more coming up in just a moment on The Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network. We'll get to first impressions in just a few moments. 1-800-635-LIVE is the number. First, we have another kid on the phone.
Okay. Hello there, young Poison.
Hello, are you there?
Hi, Steve. Hello.
And your name? What's your name?
Billy.
Sherry?
Billy.
Yes.
Billy. It's
Billy.
a little hard to hear here,
Yes.
3,000 miles away. Where are you calling from, Bill?
I'm calling from Cincinnati.
Nice to have you with us today on WCKY.
Thank you. And I used to play a game called Jim and Tommy.
Bob Einstein, where are you hiding?
What?
You rascal, you.
You crazy zany. I was able to fool you without even trying.
That's because I have
my
lousy...
name's Billy, and you said Sherry, and I said yes.
It's just because I have lousy earphones. It's not any great credit to you, Bob
I
Einstein.
know.
He's calling from his car phone, believe it or not.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, boy, is it loud here, too. A truck just drove through my back seat.
Listen, I know you grew up in Beverly Hills. You led a sheltered existence. Did you ever play street games?
Yes, I did. We called
Such
Mug the
as?
Maid.
Mug the Maid.
Yes.
Okay.
And Kick the Can. And then we called the plumber.
Just a moment, just for old time's sake.
Thank you very much.
Okay, a little bell there.
See, now you can do it back to him. You can honk the horn in your car.
Yes, but there's a policeman in front of me, and I would get a ticket for the joke.
Tell him I
And
said
no
this.
joke is ever worth a ticket.
And
Did you ever play statues?
Yes,
in Beverly
we
Hills?
did. Yes, we
Really?
did.
Mm-hmm.
And did you?
No, but the big question of the day is, and it's
Yes?
a $29 question, is what the heck is Ring Alivio?
Ring Alivio, I remember, and what it used to be is you'd get a shirt dirty,
Ring around the collar Alivio. I see.
and then they would you'd put your shirt on the ground and people would jump over it,
I see.
and that was Ring Alivio.
Or you would make a ring around the bathtub, and then you would alleviate that somehow.
That's correct. And also
see.
you would try to alleviate this joke and the subject matter as it's going nowhere. That's another game we played.
Going nowhere.
Yes,
Speaking of
called
going-
Alivio.
Speaking of going nowhere, where are you right now?
I'm at the Forum, and I'm going to the Lakers-Houston Rocket game.
Oh, wonderful.
It's a great game.
You're a sportsman and a playboy.
Not necessarily in that order.
Well, we have to take a break.
Well, that's too bad. You think I'm going to hang on during the game or what? I'll just stay in the parking lot and pay for this call and hang on. Because I so enjoy doing this.
All right.
Well, you take a break and talk about pro piano. Thank everyone.
We'll get back to it. We'll come.
This is only being on in some of our stations some of the time, you know.
We'll be back in just a moment with the Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
Howdy, this is Steve Allen. Stay tuned because there's a lot more to come here on The Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
You're listening to the Steve Allen Show. In just a second, we'll get to First Impressions. The number is 1-800-635-LIVE. Call right now, 1-800-635-LIVE. Herb Sargent is with us. This is Mark Simone. And here again is Steve Allen.
Yes, talking about Ring Alivio, Potsy, statues, red lights,
I think
spin
we have
the bottle.
Oh, we have an answer to Ring Alivio.
Oh, good. I'm very Ring Alleviated.
You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Hi, Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I've got my mother on a tie line. She can tell you what Ring Alivio is.
Oh, good.
Go ahead, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Steve.
Where are you calling from?
Harrisburg Heights, New Jersey.
Nice to hear from you. How did we play Ring Alivio?
I think I'm shaking the webs out of my head. Didn't one kid have to hide his eyes while all the rest of the kids ran to hide?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get caught, you are out of the game. But if the one kid at the end can sneak home, he hollers 1, 2, 3, Ring Alivio, and they're all free.
I see. Yes, that sounds very reasonable.
So
In other words, while the guy who is it is down the alley looking for him, he could sneak behind him and get back to home base first, right?
And basically all these games are variations of hide and go seek.
Of course. Yes. Well, thank you so much, ma'am. What is your name?
Emperor.
And
Nice to have you with us, and thanks for solving that mystery for us.
well, it's time now, ladies and gentlemen, for First Impressions. If you do a great impression of somebody, call us right now at 1-800-635-LIVE. And as we said before, the more obscure, the better. 1-800-635-LIVE. And you don't have to do just human beings. It can be animals, machines,
Dripping water at 3 in the morning from a leaky faucet, anything unusual.
farm equipment, anything at all. Are you ready for our first call?
As ready as Jimmy the Greek is for some big joke of this sort, but go ahead.
You're on the Steve Allen Show. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Who do you do?
First of all, I admire you and have listened to you in the early years and admire you still. My impression is...
Of Minnie Pearl.
No. Just because I'm a Southerner, don't say that. I'm not from Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, you sound very cute wherever you're from.
All right. It is Prissy in Gone with the Wind.
Prissy?
In Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar with Gone with the Wind.
Butterfly McQueen.
I beg your pardon?
But the part played by the actress Butterfly McQueen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. You ready?
Go ahead.
Yep. All set down.
All right. Miss Scarlett, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies.
Well, that's very good. And your first name is?
Beverly.
Beverly, that was a very creditable impression from the famous movie Gone with the Wind, and we thank you for kicking off this category today.
Well, we're off to a strange start. You're on the Steve Allen Show. Are you?
Hey, this is Denny, okay?
Yes, Denny. Who do you do?
This is Henry Fonda doing his GAF commercial. Are you ready?
Here we go. A 20-year-old impression, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, I used to say GAF.
No, that's Walter Brennan.
And after, you know, he sounds a little like Walter Brennan if you're doing that other kind of voice, because he and John Kennedy all sound like Walter Brennan. But it says...
Denny, you've had 20 years to work on this. You can't make it sound more like Henry Fonda?
But he's right about that. They did sound somewhat alike, those three.
You could do, actually, John Kennedy if you did a little takeoff on Walter Brennan's voice, and you'd have that president. But
You're
actually,
quite right.
when I did GAF commercials, people were saying that I was saying the word GAF, and actually I was using the initials GAF. Now, if I tell you GAF as initials in the word GAF, can't you tell the difference GAF and GAF?
Well, Denny, to tell you the truth, it sounds nothing like Henry Fonda, but you could make that a great impression by simply saying it's George Bush.
Thanks, Mark.
Now do
I
it
can
again.
tell you.
Say
I liked it. I detected Henry Fonda-ness in there.
But you could also make it a contemporary impression by saying it's George Bush.
Impersonating him, that's why there's a little trouble with me, because I sound like him. I got to get over the fact that everybody tells me I sound like Henry Fonda, even when I'm trying to talk my own voice.
That's true, but as the years pass, which is very sad, more and more, well, I'll put it this way, fewer folks will remember the wonderful actor Henry Fonda, but everybody's now hip to George Bush. So work on it, get a couple of political jokes, and you can make a living at that now.
All right, Steve, thanks.
Thanks for calling.
You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Hi. Hello?
Yes, what's your impression?
Ethel Merman singing Corcovado.
Oh, that's funny already.
Corcovado means quiet nights or quiet stars.
Yes, shall I sing it?
Yes.
Quiet nights and quiet stars, quiet chords from my guitar. That's about as far as it goes.
Sounded like Henry Fonda singing it to me. I don't know. But it's a gutsy concept.
It's a good one. Thanks for your call. 1-800-635-LIVE is the number. 1-800-635-LIVE. You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Yes, this is Cy.
Cy, how are you?
Good. I have a 3-word imitation of Gary Cooper.
Only 3 words. Okay,
Only
Cy.
3 words.
Go ahead.
I love you.
That's very good.
1-word imitation of Boris Karloff.
1 word.
Antipasto.
Very funny.
Okay, that's it.
That's it, Cy. Very clever.
Okay.
You might want to tighten up your act a little.
Very clever. Boris Karloff, Herb, was he from India originally?
England.
But wasn't he half Indian extraction?
I don't think so. I think he was an Englishman.
But he grew up in the Midwest in Indiana or
His
something
name was
like that.
Pratt.
And he was a truck driver.
Yeah. But I still think that, however, with no sense speculating about this, I just have it in my craw that there was some, I don't know, on his mother's side he was 1/4 Punjabi or something, which accounted for what we, with our Western bias, perceived as his odd face, which was so effective in all those scary roles.
It's possible.
Well, you're on the Steve Allen Show.
Hello.
Yes.
I have one for a Russian diplomat being called back from the United States, and they're very unhappy with him.
All right.
And he goes before his peers, and they just, this is what it was. Droshnik, prashnit, etornit, prashnit, salt mine.
That's very good, sir. And your first name?
Oh, all right, don't tell us.
All right. I guess he was afraid of the KGB or KBJ, heebie-jeebie, something. I don't know what he was afraid of. My mouth, probably.
You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Hi, I'm Patrick O'Neill.
I'm Patrick O'Neill, and I've discovered a small miracle to relieve aches and pains.
Who is this really?
This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. How's Mutt? Now, that doesn't mean anything to people under 50. There used to be a cartoon strip called Mutt and Jeff.
Mutt and Jeff. People always say that to me. They ask me if I'm Mutt or Jeff.
Well, that's very good. Funny. That's our first Patrick O'Neill impression. Thanks for calling. You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Yeah, I got an impression of the old cartoon character, Quick Draw McGraw.
Quick Draw McGraw.
That's right.
All right.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Hold on there! Come back here, it's at 10!
Mark, in your generation, you watched that cartoon. I did not. So what do you think?
That sounds nothing like Quick Draw McGraw.
I cannot comment.
That's Quistra. If I ever heard Quistra, that's Quistra.
And that's the worst Bobo Louie I ever heard. Try it again. Try Quick Draw again.
I'll kibang you with my kibanger!
No. But keep working on it.
Thank you, sir, for calling.
Okay.
Good sport that he was.
Well, we have to be honest.
He took your browbeating in good grace.
Well, you have to be honest about it.
Was anybody ever beaten about the brow? Then why do we say browbeating?
You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Hello, my name is Robin Leach. I would like to present you Here Live in Hollywood with Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
I think that's an actual robin. A little robin redbreast calling from its nest. Hi, Tweety Face. How old are you, Robin?
9.
9. Well, you're very sweet. And what's your other name besides Robin?
Tommy Mosquito.
Tommy. Or Tony?
Tommy.
Tommy.
Tommy
Mosquito.
Macedo?
Yes.
Nice to have you with us, Tommy. You're very clever. How long have you been imitating Robin Leach?
For a few weeks.
I see. I love the fact that when you ask anyone under 10 years old any question, it always starts out with a high G flat. They always go, about 7 years. Where do you live? 49th Street in Neighborhood.
Where do you live?
966.
Well, don't give your address, Tommy.
That's all right, Tommy. It was a hypothetical question, and if I weren't under a hypothesis at the moment, I never would have asked it. What do you want to be when you grow up, Tommy?
I don't know.
I know many people doing it who don't know what they're doing, so don't you worry about that. You sound cute, Tommy. Keep up the good work.
All right.
Thanks for calling. You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Have you with us again, Arnold? And who would you like to...
Is also a quickie. Sly Stallone doing Shakespeare.
Who?
Sly Stallone.
Oh,
Rambo.
Sly Stallone. I thought you said Ponce de Leon. I misunderstood.
Not quite.
All right. Sly Stallone doing Shakespeare.
To be or what?
All right. We'll take that under advisement. Thank you, Mr. Willens.
Thank you for calling. We have to pause for just a moment, but we'll continue with first impressions and more. The number is 1-800-635-LIVE. Call us right now. It's toll-free, 1-800-635-LIVE. We'll continue in a moment with The Steve Allen Show on the NBC Radio Network.
Hi, this is Steve Allen. If you'd like to be part of our show, call us toll-free at 800-635-5483.
You're listening to The Steve Allen Show. It's time once again for First Impressions. If you do a great impersonation of somebody, call us right now, 1-800-635-LIVE. 1-800-635-LIVE. Are you ready for our next victim?
I've never been readier, which isn't saying much.
You're on the Steve Allen Show.
Hello, Steve.